Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks so much for tuning in to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. Guys, we are fired up today. We got Money, Finance, Freedom Week, and nobody represents this more than the woman I have on today. This is a woman that paid off $260,000 in debt in 5 years and became a millionaire in 10. This is a woman that's teaching other people and yourself today how to become financially free. This is a woman that worked in finance for 18 years, has an MBA and accounting certificate. She helps you master your emotions and mindset. She also writes the greatest threads in the history of Twitter. This is my awesome friend and champion, Cori Arnold. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ty. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
It's an honor to have you on. Well, I know you're in the sunny South Carolina right now. We'll get you back to the beach here soon, but I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to drop some knowledge on the people.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, maybe for anybody who doesn't know a little bit about you, can you kind of give your backstory, a little bit about who you are, what you're about?
Yeah, sure. The reason I actually joined social media was to really share my story, just to give other people hope. So 11 years ago, I found myself, like you mentioned, in $260,000 worth of debt. 140,000 was student loans. 22,000 was credit cards. I made a huge mess of my of my finances. And the funny thing is, I worked in finance and I was in accounting. And of my friends, I was supposed to be the one that was good with money, and I was probably the worst. So luckily, I had a couple turning points 11 years ago, and then turned it around completely. Paid off all that debt in 5 years, and then became a millionaire in 10 years.
That is so inspiring. That's really cool. Well, can you kind of walk us through that process? And I think it is kind of funny that you're in finance, so you went through all this stuff, but then you kind of find yourself 11 years ago, a little over a decade, in this kind of precarious situation. So what was the wake up moment for you, and what was kind of those first steps? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so there were two main turning points. So the first one was actually kind of funny. I was watching a Susie Orman special on TV. It was just a random special. I just happened to turn the channel to it. And she brought a woman out on stage, and this woman was also having issues with her money. And she brought out a rack of this woman's clothes that she said was worth like $6,000. And then she brought out a pile of cash that was worth $6,000. And she asked the woman, would you rather have the clothes or the cash? And I mean, this sounds so obvious. And I see myself today, and I'm like, that is just, I mean, it's a really obvious question. But at the time, I had just like, I would just go shopping all the time and not even think about what it did to my money situation, which sounds stupid, but really I had to like simplify it that much. Would I rather have the cash or the clothes? And that question really kind of started to open my eyes. So then I started listing out my debts, and I did that actually for a few months. And then one day, for some reason, I just decided to calculate my interest, the total interest I was paying, and I found out I was paying like $16,000 a year in interest. And at the time, I was not making that much. My take-home pay was like, I don't know, 48, 50,000. So that was literally like a third of my money going to interest.
Man.
So that was a huge wake-up call. I realized like if 30% or 33% of my money is going to interest, I'm never ever going to get wealthy. I'm probably never going to retire early. So that was kind of the turning point where I needed to get serious.
Wow. Shout out to Suze Orman. That's cool. I used to watch a few of those shows too. It's a great, and it is cool. What I think is my big takeaway there is that, you probably intuitively knew some of this stuff, but that one powerful visual, just something spoke to you. And I love that that's kind of why you share now, right? Like bringing it full circle, because maybe you just say that one thing or that one thread that really hits that person when they need to be hit, right?
Exactly. And I mean, that's really why I'm on Twitter, for example, and other social media outlets, just to try to tell people that it is possible. I wasn't making a lot of money. I had a lot of debt, and I didn't inherit anything. I didn't marry into money. There's nothing really special about me. That's really the point. Like anyone can do this if you put your mind to it.
I totally agree. And I was in the same boat as you, Cori, because when I was young, I made probably 3 times what I make now. Even what me and my wife made now. I had several years in a row of 300K plus playing poker. And at the end of that, I had like a 15K net worth. I think, we grow up and we're kind of programmed. You see all these commercials. We're a consumer society. So it's just kind of normal. Well, you get your paycheck. What do? Go treat yourself, right? Go buy this stuff. But really, when you look at that pile of clothes and you say, can I have that? Or can I have freedom and peace of mind and some margin and some, those things, it kind of clicks. So when you figure out a third's going to the government, a third's going to interest, you're living on a third. What's kind of those first steps? Maybe somebody's in that today that's listening. Did you list the debts out? What was your kind of plan of action?
Yeah, I did a few things right off the bat. So the first was, which a lot of people tell me this is kind of a cheat, but I actually, so I mentioned I had the student loans, the credit cards. I actually had two properties, which I know sounds crazy today. They both had mortgages of around 50,000 on them. But again, I am from rural Ohio, middle of nowhere, and this is 2011. So it was right, real estate was just recovering from 2008, 2009. So I had bought this duplex in 2009 for 68,000. I had a mortgage of maybe 50, and then I got that listed for sale because I wasn't making any money. The tenants were not paying rent very well. So I put that on the market, and it took like a year actually to sell it, but I sold it for a loss. I bought it for 68, I sold it for 60, but it was okay. I got it off my plate. So, and that, to be honest, that like was an ego pride because, I had to take a loss on that, which today I know people say, oh, you got rid of it though. But, most people expect to make a profit on real estate. So, so I kind of had to take the hit to my ego and say, no, that was bad investment, bad choice. That was one big thing that really helped put a dent in the debt. The other thing, I actually refinanced my house at the time, so my big thing, I was going for the interest just because I knew how much interest I was paying. I was really trying to bring it down because the less interest, obviously, that I paid every year, the faster I could get rid of the debt. So I refinanced my house, which I know a lot of financial experts say don't do because a lot of this debt was unsecured. It was on student loans. And I was actually putting it on my house, a secured asset. So I know I did take a risk there, but I was so determined to pay it off that I wasn't even worried about the risk. So I think I actually took my credit card that was maybe 18% and refinanced it into the house at maybe 3 or 4%. So that for me, that was a huge deal.
Huge. That's a massive win.
Exactly. And then I mean, this whole time I had decent credit, so it wasn't like I was paying my bills late or anything. So I ended up getting a lot of 0% credit card deals in the mail, and I really took advantage of those. I mean, I'm a nerd, so I had everything charted out. Those deals only last like 12 to 18 months, so you really have to know how much you can pay off within that 12 months and not transfer more than what you think you can pay off. So that was it. I also leaned out, which everyone says, I don't want to sacrifice my life, but I really brought my expenses down. I stopped going out so much. I stopped going out to eat a lot. Clothes shopping. I mean, it's funny how things add up, and it could be like $20 here and there, but really at the end of the day, it's, hundreds or thousands of dollars a year. So it was really just some of those being intentional. Another thing I did, I started contributing a bit at work, and I did eventually get some raises, which helped a lot as well.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like, yeah, those people think, and back in the day, I think of money now in terms of like, okay, if I'm paying $1,500 a month in interest and I only make $200 a day or $300 a day, okay, the first 5 to 10 days of this month I'm working is just to pay this bank, right? So it infuriates me when I'm paying interest now because I'm like, man, I just want to attack this debt so much and get rid of it. And it sounds like you kind of had that mindset of, can you lower it? And people think, oh, it's only, $100 night out here, or it's only a $200 item of clothes, or it's, $60 worth of Starbucks or whatever. But when you add all those things together and you can chop an extra 500, 900, 800 off your debt every month, and you do that for a couple of years, it's astounding the amount of extra margin you can have. So it sounds like you found a lot of success in that too.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's so easy to just go through life and not really think about, and even like you could even kind of pay attention to what you're paying for every day, but you don't really realize like how big it adds up to at the end of the month if you don't write it down or really track it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So are you a big proponent then of if somebody was in a mess right now, let's say, right? And would you tell them, hey, first step is start to track where your money's going so you can see what the best thing is, how we can eliminate some of it? Okay.
Exactly. Track your spending. And literally, like, you can write it down in a notebook, you can write it in a spreadsheet. You don't have to pay big bucks for an app or a software or anything.
Shout out to
really
notebooks.
The fact
I got all my stuff tracked right here on notebooks.
Exactly. And to be honest, that's what I did at first too. I literally had a notebook, and every payday I would write it down, write down everything. So Old school works.
That's right. I just co-led a retreat with Zach Hommel, and he was giving me a hard time on it because he's like, dude, send me an Excel sheet. I'm like, I ain't got Excel, bro. I will write down a list and I will take a picture of it and email you that. I'm a notebook guy. My family makes fun. I got 50 notebooks all around, all these ideas on it. So I'm with you on that. Well, let's talk about one thing you mentioned earlier too. You kind of said the ego part of it, right? You had to take a hit on that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I want to relate this to kind of a lot of your threads and a lot of things you talk about, which money and mindset and that emotional kind of pull towards it. Because I do feel like what keeps a lot of people from being rich is they want to look rich, right? And so can you kind of talk about that and elaborate on that, what your thoughts are there?
Yeah. And to be honest, I was one of those people. I wanted a big career. I saw people at work, they dressed up. Felt like I had to look the image. Friends did certain things. I thought I should play the part. So I understand. I mean, we live in this world where it's just advertising everywhere, and we see people and we want to be people, and we want the lifestyle, but we don't want to do the work. And it's so easy. And I found that the more insecure we are, the more we want to spend to like compensate for our feelings. It's interesting how powerful our emotions are and our image, our ego, everything when it comes to our money, and really actually when it comes to most parts of our life. So conquering those emotions, that's really huge. Once you do that and you don't really care what other people think and you kind of just live life your way, then it gets so much easier.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a huge step to it, is kind of unlearning a lot of those societal programming, because I was just like you when I started making my first money, I dropped out of college, but at 21, playing poker, 22, 23, and I'm seeing other friends and I'm saying, well, he drives a Benz, he's successful, but what I didn't really realize is, man, he drives a Benz, but he's got to go to work every day, like the guy down the road, he drives the Toyota. He doesn't have a car payment. He's investing $800 extra a month. He's rich, like it might not look like it. And so a lot of times these appearances can kind of be deceiving. So how do you kind of talk people through that, or what's kind of your main message on that? Well, hey, I like nice stuff. You're going to hear that from people a lot. I deserve nice stuff. So what's
exactly a lot. And a lot of people think they deserve nice stuff. And I mean, and everyone does that, and everyone wants the best. So it's a natural human thing, I think. I think it's finding your inner confidence, because I think the more confident you are as a person, and the less you worry about the outside world and what other people are thinking. I think too many of us, we feel like we have to behave a certain way or act with the norm or the masses. And it's I think life is a lot better when you just release that. My actual message to people, I just try to talk about how, one of my favorite books is actually The Millionaire Next Door. And that whole book is about how real millionaires live. And, they're not out there, I don't know, spending crazy dollars. So I guess I just try to, emphasize that it's not how you look. It's that you're getting the most out of life without having that need to spend.
Yeah, I think that book really opened my eyes too, because before I read that, I thought, well, like probably 80% of millionaires inherited it. They're athletes, they're celebrities. And then it's like, no, 94% are like just people like you and me. They're just like an accountant, they're a teacher, they're a whatever. They might make 10,000 a month and live on 6. And they just invest 4,000 a month, and they do this for a couple decades, and now they're a millionaire, like that's kind of the cheat code to it. That's awesome. I love that. Well, you talked too about 5 stages of money. And this is something I was really interested in, and to get your takes. Can you explain that, what you mean by that, and kind of break that down for people?
Yeah. So as I was going through this journey, I was reading a lot of books, and it's funny, today it's a little different than it was like 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, when I read finance books, it was really about debt and investing and, managing your money. But a lot of the books didn't really talk about your mindset. And my very first stage is mindset, because if you don't get your mindset right, if you don't undo some of the beliefs you have, it's really, really hard to actually win with your money. So,
shout out to lottery winners right there, because you see that all the time, right? They may have a windfall of money, but if their mind's not right, they're broke a year later,
Exactly. And a lot of people say they want to win the lottery, but really you don't want to win it until you're ready. If you're ready, then awesome, do it. But Otherwise, you're probably going to end up broke.
Probably if you're ready, you're not buying the tickets most often.
Exactly. Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. Yeah. So number one stage is mindset. You really got to get that right. You really have to analyze your beliefs and figure out what's really holding you back, which can be hard to do. Number two is regressive debt. So I kind of just named these different types of debt, different names. So regressive debt is really kind of like consumer debt. It's debt on anything that depreciates, like a car, credit cards, personal loan, even student loans in some way. It's debt that you're not really going to see appreciation out of later, and you're really getting penalized twice. Obviously you're paying the interest, but then that stuff you bought is depreciating, so you're really losing a lot of value from that. And
that one hits hard. You're losing twice. That's true.
Actually,
wow.
Yeah, so it's expensive. So you really want to stay away from that. Or if you have it, you really want to pay it off as soon as you can. Now I do have, so step 3 or stage 3 is actually retirement investing. And the funny thing about this is retirement investing, I actually want you to start that. Like when you get your mindset right, I want you to start your retirement investing right away. It doesn't have to be a lot. But you want to at least get the employer match if you work for someone, or 5 to 10%. You want to get something because you want to start building that habit. But at the same time, you just want to set it up, let it go, make it automated, and then focus on your regressive debt. I know a lot of people say, wait until you're out of debt, but I say get it started sooner. You're building your muscle. You're not paying attention to it. You're focusing on the regressive debt. And then you kind of let that go. And then when you do pay off all that regressive debt, then you can actually take a look at that, increase your contribution between maybe 10, 20%. I think I contributed 10% while I was paying off the mess. And then after I paid it off, I increased it to 22%. So that, the percentages aren't precise, but you should increase it. Then the stage number 4 is progressive debt. And progressive debt is it's generally debt on real estate. So it's appreciating assets. Almost everyone, probably 99% of the country, has to get a mortgage when you buy your first house. And I did too. So it's expected. I mean, not that you really want to hold that debt for a long time, but there are some debts that are decent. I know a lot of people put rentals on debt. And again, you don't want to have that your whole life, but to get started, it's probably a necessity. And then the last stage is the most fun stage. This is the non-retirement investing stage. So this is where you can invest in the stock market, real estate, and like small businesses or medium-sized businesses. And this is where this is just discretionary money. Because you've paid off all your debt, you've probably figured out a way to keep more of your income. And then this is the fun stuff where you get to you can trial and error with some different investments.
Yeah, you can play around with Bitcoin. You can play around if you got a small percent, right? You can fire it off and see if it goes big. I love that. I think that's really cool. I want to back up and go again to that kind of mindset piece and how that plays into everything. Because I have seen a lot of people, myself included, a big windfall of money in my 20s, all gone. Like by the time I was 28, I had made close to 1.2 million playing poker.
That's awesome.
5 or 6 years. And by the time I met my wife, my wife now, I had less than 100K, like right? I didn't know how to keep it. And so if somebody comes to you, Cori, and they say, well, I want to change my mindset around money, what would you kind of talk them through, or what would be kind of some of your lessons?
Yeah. So the first lesson is really to analyze your beliefs. And this is harder to do, obviously, than to say. But as we're raised, the people around us, they are telling us things, and all these words are getting into our subconscious mind if they're repeated enough. And the subconscious mind, it holds all of our deepest beliefs. And that's why this is so hard, because a lot of your deepest beliefs, first of all, they've been with you probably decades. And so it's hard because in your head, you think they're facts. So it's hard for you to actually differentiate, what's a fact and what's a belief, because it's been with me for so long. Like a normal one, for example, there's 3 that come to mind. So debt is normal. I mean, a lot of people just grow up assuming it's normal. I actually, even when I was in high school, so my parents actually did pay off their house when I was in high school. And I thought they were so weird and dumb because, they wouldn't actually buy me anything nice, but they paid their house off. But, and then number two, you think you have to work until your mid 60s. Well, obviously that's not true, but a lot of people, if you grow up around people who are working 9 to 5s and, with no flexibility, then you might just assume that that's a fact. And then number three, that Social Security can give you a comfortable retirement. And just looking at the numbers, I mean, it's just not true. So a lot of these are hard because everyone around you, my family included, who I love, they're all hard workers, but they have these beliefs and they won't necessarily like just take a step back and really think that there's a different way. So that's, I don't know. I try to talk about beliefs a lot just because it at the same time, though, even though I try to tell people to change their beliefs, I know it's really, really hard because we're programmed that way. And I actually have a funny story. So I did not grow up with much money. I think my parents barely made like the poverty threshold my whole life, but they also lived really, really cheaply. So it wasn't like they were bad with money. They just didn't have a lot. And so I grew up thinking I just knew I was poor. We were poor, whatever. So then I kind of thought I had shed that belief. Like I didn't actually think about it on a daily basis. I was making decent money, and this is maybe, I don't know, 7 years ago. And I was actually, I was almost, maybe my net worth was zero. I don't know, but it wasn't negative anymore. And my income was nice. But anyway, I'm at a store with a friend and shopping, and we're at the checkout, and I had picked up a few items, and then I thought, oh, I'm trying to pay off my debt. I'll just put these back. And she just jokingly said, "Oh, you're poor." And I actually got really emotional because, and I didn't even think I believed that anymore. But like somewhere deep inside of me, I thought, oh, I
Wow.
must have like still believed that I was really poor. So it's funny how like sometimes you're not even aware of your beliefs, but they're still like deep down inside. Now, how to get those out of you, I don't necessarily know unless you have someone pick on you and you figure out like which
We just
one
need
you're
to send them
emotional
that friend.
towards.
Send that friend to
Yeah,
everybody.
exactly.
Like
Exactly.
the Cosmo Kramer for all you Seinfeld fans that'll just point out things with people, But I think that's a
Yeah.
great point you bring up of kind of thinking about the way you think. I'm really big into, I call it metacognition, where
Yeah.
you literally think about why you're thinking about things and ask yourself. I think, if you ask yourself the right questions in life, it'll take you to a lot of places you really want to go. And so journaling, thinking about the way you think, metacognition, some journaling, those are some good ways, healthy ways to get it out. And also, let's be honest, talk to people like you, find other people that have already done it, kind of deprogrammed. And if somebody's watching this and they say, well, man, I'm buried in debt, I'd love to be where Cori is, in a second home, like, doing great things with a great margin and great net worth. Join community, right? I mean, it's never been easier now to follow your social medias, which I'll link everything Cori does below. Reach out to her on her website and pick her brain and book a call and do things like this, right? That's the cool thing, is how you can start to unlearn these things. So I think that's an awesome point that you made.
Yeah, exactly.
And another one I want to hit on is that Social Security for retirement. Oh man. So I managed a bank for 6.5 years, largest bank in the country. And the saddest thing that I saw time and time again, people in their 70s still having to work a job 5 days a week because, dude, Social Security was giving them $900 a month, $1,300 a month, didn't even cover their rent, their basic necessities of life. They had to keep working until the day they died. And I think that really lit a fuse under me to say, man, even if we're putting the start of our journey, we do it as $50 a month. Great. Like whatever it was that we could put away, we were going to put something. And I think something is better than nothing, so that you don't show up when you're ready to retire and be done working and say, well, I don't have a choice. I have to keep going. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, your retirement years are supposed to be relaxful or, relaxing, and you don't want to worry about not having money. You don't want to be uncomfortable. You're going to have a lot of time. And when you have time, you tend to spend more money. So I don't know. I know there's so many friends of mine that I wish I could just wake them up, but so far I haven't gotten to them yet.
It's the sooner you start too, right? There's like that stat of, man, if you wait until you're 50, you have to put in so much more than if you just a little bit in your 30s, a tiny little bit in your 20s, right? And like you alluded to, you build those habits, and then as your income goes up, man, then it just becomes so easy, and the power of time and compounding. if you just set it, we always joke online on Twitter, I'm a boring investor. I
Exactly.
literally don't even look at my stuff much. I
Right.
just put it in the same
Yep.
kind of S&P
Mhm.
500, VOO, some of these easy things, right? Let it do its thing.
Exactly. Yep, the more automated, the better. And I agree. Don't look at the market. Don't. Otherwise, I mean, too many people again put their emotions in their in their trading, and they make bad decisions. So automate it. Just let it go. And compounding is it really is the eighth wonder of the world.
It's amazing when you start
Mhm.
seeing your money work for itself, right? And what that
Mhm.
can do. Yeah, it's super powerful. Well, let's move into this. I have a question for you that I'm excited to ask. What are you think the biggest myths and misconceptions that people make with personal finance?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I kind of hit on this already. So the assuming that debt is normal, again, every day we're bombarded with advertisements and including like loans. Lenders want to sell you money or sell you debt because they make a commission most likely. And just the fact that everyone thinks debt is normal, and I mean, the weird people are the ones that are debt free. It's just such a crazy, like, if you take a step back and really think about what that means, it's really interesting. So in 2016 is when I actually paid off all my debt. I mean, the burden that was lifted off my shoulders was amazing. It's so crazy. Debt, I mean, I didn't sleep well at night. I was worried about it. I felt like I was stuck at a job because I didn't want to take a risk at another job. Um, Debt just brings so many negative things into our lives. And I'm hoping that, we can change that belief that debt really isn't normal.
I love that. Well, let's dive into this more. I want your opinion on this. So do you think the machine that kind of is society that just says, well, it's normal to go be six figures in debt at college. Well, right when you get out, there's these ads. Well, you graduated, you deserve a nice car, you deserve this, right? Do you think that's kind of almost programming to keep the system going? Because if enough people, let's be honest, break free, I don't need an employer. You don't need an employer. We can live life
Right.
kind of on our own terms at this point. Do you think the system is kind of set up that way on purpose to keep people in that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Interesting. Yeah. Of course, when you say system, I don't know how how big you're talking, but of course the banking industry, of course they want your money. They want to make a profit. And then of course it's a big circle because they have shareholders and everything is a big, big circle. But yeah, I mean, it definitely keeps obviously the more people spend, the more our economy grows, GDP goes up. So there is definitely something to it. Um, but I think it would be okay if everyone just started spending a little smarter. You could still use the credit card, just don't leave the balance on it.
Mhm.
And obviously, people are not doing that because I think at the beginning of February there was an article that the credit card debt it's like the highest it's ever been, and it's not just like higher, just a little bit higher. It's way higher than it's ever been. Um, so a lot of people are just living on these credit cards and spending money, and that's one thing. It's kind of funny. So there's all this talk of this recession, and all of these indicators are out of whack right now. So people keep spending money. So the retailers are really confused and wondering, like, why are people still spending money? But unemployment actually isn't that bad yet. It's funny. Like, this isn't a normal recession. Like, the indicators are all a little bit off right now. So I think it's really interesting. I don't know if people are just getting more stubborn and spending more. At some point, it's going to catch up with everyone. But yeah, and I don't necessarily think it would bring down the entire economy if people got smarter with debt. Obviously, we would, the big companies would make less money, but I don't think that necessarily hurts the
Yeah.
economy overall.
That's the thing. Working at a bank for as long as I did, I mean, we would get these earnings report. Again, I was at the largest bank in the country. I'm not gonna say their name, but I mean, they would make like $27 billion in a quarter, right? So maybe if they made 26 and we
Crazy.
had less credit
Exactly.
card debt, that would be better, right? Like, and
Exactly.
I would challenge anybody out there today too. I don't think you should have a credit card unless you can pay the full balance every month, or if, like you said earlier, you get an 18-month interest free, right? And you have a plan to pay that off at the end. Because again, if what you alluded to before, if you're leaving a $2,000 balance and it's a 12% interest card, I mean, my goodness, how many days of the month do you have to work just to pay the interest? Not even to reduce what you owe on that card,
Mhm.
but just to pay the bank the interest for the privilege to borrow that money, right? So you really need to
Yeah.
swap the way you think about that, I think.
Exactly. Interest, fees. There's so many like things that we pay for and we think it's normal. And then we get mad if, we get mad if someone tries to sell us a course, for example. It's really funny. It's just so funny what we think is normal and what we don't want to spend our money on. So.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. And you crush social media. You have hundreds of thousands of followers across social and Twitter. You really came onto the scene a couple of years ago with 6-figure following on there because you're an amazing writer. And I feel like you really capture, I can't wait to see what you're going to put out every day, to be honest. But we can talk about that too, because I think that's interesting to me, where you can be selling somebody a $20 course that could unlock some things in their mind, and they'll call you a scammer, a grifter. But writing a blank check for $200K to go study gender studies and come out like 7 years later with no marketable skills is like just normal, right? Like, right. That's really backwards to me.
It's so funny how people think, and again, they've been raised that way, so it's just interesting. Yeah, I like to. I think about it a lot. I don't know. That's my challenge every day. Like, how do you actually get through to those people? And I haven't quite figured it out exactly. They have to want it, and that's a big piece of it. But
yeah, I mean, I remember when I hired my first coach, Zach Hommel, 3.5 years ago, and I told my wife, "Yeah, I'm going to spend like $1,500 on this coach." She's like, "Well, what do you get for it?" Coaching, and then it became the joke. Like 4 months later, my wife would say, go hop on another call with Zach. You're being cranky today. Go hop. Like, I see the value in it. Right. But I do think that people that haven't maybe gotten mentors or coaching or anything like that, it's really hard to see. But I had a young man on my podcast a while back. His name's Marvin. He's my college suite mate. He grew up in and out of homeless shelters. And dude, he said when he had no money, he hired a mentor. And last year he spent $240,000 on mentors, and they made him $3.5–4 million. And he does $1 million days now. And he said every smart person that he's ever been in a room with hires coaches, hires mentors, why would you not want to bridge that gap to people that they're where you want to be and you're trying to get there, right? It makes sense, but again, it's hard to tell certain people that, I guess.
Agreed. No, that's a great point you made there. Yep.
Yeah. Well, anybody out there, hire mentors. I'll wrap up that segment with that. Well, what's some daily habits, maybe some habits around money or even just personal life? Because you're obviously really successful at pretty much everything you do from what you share online, and to see that you're just, you kind of have a very solid mindset. So what are some daily habits and daily things with money or without that you kind of can share and help other people with?
Yeah, and to be honest, just for full disclosure, I don't have a perfect life by any means, but
nobody does, right?
But
doing a lot well.
I do fail quite a bit, but daily habits. I got into meditating and practicing gratitude about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. They have really changed my life. Like, I mean, to start this whole money journey like 11 years ago, I did obviously change some things in my mindset, but I never took the time to meditate or I never took the time to meditate or really appreciate what I have. So I do come from a family with really good values, and they were always, appreciative of everything we had, and they were always loving. So I did really get a lot of good values from them. So naturally, I was appreciative of what I had, but I didn't necessarily practice it every single day, and I didn't like intentionally write it down. So gratitude has been huge. Like it's so funny how again I take like less than a minute to do it every day. I literally write down, or sometimes I just think about 3 things from the day before. And it's funny how you see different things. Like you actually recognize really what you have, and it can be super like simple. It doesn't have to be anything special. My dogs did something funny, made me laugh, or or you notice something on a walk. I mean, it's most of the time it's not like anything that I bought or anything like that. It's really just enjoying the moment in most cases.
That's super powerful. I love that you said that. And to piggyback on that, I've done a gratitude journal for 4.5 years now, and I don't miss a day. It's at least 3 things. Again, it takes a minute, 2 minutes tops, right? And the impact that's had on my brain. And I even think it just kind of hit me as you were talking about it. That's really helped me with finances, because I have noticed I'm never really grateful for an expensive thing. Or it's always like my kid giving me a hug, my wife saying something to me, a sunset, beautiful mountain. It's always like free things in life. And so when you kind of train your brain to say, man, I am grateful for all the things I have around me, not what I lack, or I'll be happy when I buy this, or when I do this, or when I get that. It's a really powerful mindset, to be honest. Gratitude's gangster.
That's very true.
I love that.
Agreed. Completely agreed.
Tell us about your meditating. How often do you do that? Do you practice that daily?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, every morning. So I actually have to do an app. So I, the reason I didn't do meditation for so long, I had heard about it and was kind of intrigued by it maybe 20 years ago. But I thought, oh, I don't have time for this. Like my brain doesn't, I never stop thinking. So this is not good for me. I didn't really know enough about it. So then a few years ago, I learned a little bit more. And really, I mean, it's like the deep breathing. It's just being able to focus your thoughts on one thing. It's not necessarily clearing your mind, but for me it's been huge. But again, like I have to do a guided a guided meditation to keep me on point. But really it's funny, the breathing, like it,
Mm.
anytime now that I feel stressed or anything, I mean, if I just take 2 seconds, well, more than 10 seconds, you know breathe in for a 4 count, hold it, and then breathe out for a 4 count. That really, it changes. I mean, it's crazy, like I can get an immediate alleviation of stress. So for me, it's kind of allowed me to approach stressful situations differently. I get a little less stressed than I used to. So
I
yeah,
love
it's
that.
been really good for me. Yeah.
I love that. And I think a cool point too is that look, I'm the same. My brain does 1,000 miles an hour, right? I'm like, my wife jokes I'm a dog. I wake up every day, I'm happy. What can we chase? What can we do? I'm just like that kind of person. But trying to calm your mind down and even focus on one thing. And the breath work for me has been a really big thing. And that only takes, again, a lot of these things we're talking about. Just don't turn on the news in the morning and instead do that for 2 minutes. And you'll
Hmm.
see a massive impact. You're feeling stressed, instead of go to your phone and doom scroll, take 30 seconds, just be mindful with your breathing. That can make all the difference in your day, I think.
Agreed. It's crazy how those little things, again, like you said, they don't take much time, but they really have a lot of power over the day.
Yeah, I love that. Do you walk your dogs a lot too?
Yeah, every night.
Nice.
Yes,
Another good habit, walking. I like it. Well,
exactly. Yeah.
I
And I
appreciate
do
it.
run.
Oh,
Yeah, I
you
run
run
every
too?
day. Well, actually, I run every other day, 3 miles every other day. And it's
There you
really,
go.
running is, it's crazy how creative my brain gets when I run. I have all these thoughts and I try to hold them in my head. Sometimes I have to like stop and note them. But it's funny, like running has been really great for me from a physical and a mental place.
That's awesome. Is that where your best tweets come from when you're running?
I don't know, maybe.
Because it's, I always say it's like meditation in motion. I
Hmm.
schedule a
Yeah,
walk every single day,
cool.
and I will always be taking note. Oh, this tweet's gonna be a banger. I'll always like kind of think about that when I'm walking.
That's awesome. Yep.
That's pretty cool. I like it. Well, I get to the point where I always do a rapid fire question. So I don't know if you're prepared for this, but can I give you 5 quick questions? You give me the first thing that
Okay.
comes to your mind. You good with that, Corey?
I'm ready. Yep.
All right, here we go. You alluded to this, so I might know the answer. But number one, what's the most impactful or favorite book you've ever read?
Actually, it's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Another great one. That's an awesome book too. Yeah,
Yeah, I
we'll
love
link
that
that one
one.
below, guys. I thought it was gonna be Millionaire Next Door because we've
That's a good one though.
both great. I like that. That's awesome. What was your biggest takeaway from that book?
Think and Grow Rich. I realized how powerful our minds are. It's so funny, like I knew it, but I didn't know it, if that makes any sense. Like it's like it came to my conscious mind, I guess. I just realized like we really do have the power to do anything we want. So it came very, very clear to me, which was good.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
I love that. This is what I'm interested in. What's one unique talent or like a fun hobby that you might have that maybe everybody who follows you on social doesn't know?
Okay, well, I don't really have any funny talents. But I have a really, really soft spot for animals. So when I was growing up, my mom, like we always had rescue animals. We always had strays, and now I actually have 6 pets.
Aw,
2 are dogs, 4 cats. They're all strays or rescues. Yeah,
that's amazing. We have a rescue dog
I
too.
know.
That's
I think
awesome.
I have to turn it off though. I'm like telling myself no more.
So this is funny. My sister, I don't know if she'll watch this or not. I'll send it to this clip to her though,
Yeah.
because she's been volunteering at an animal shelter
Oh,
lately, and
nice.
it's like
Hmm.
scary because they're like, is she gonna bring home, what's she gonna bring home today? Right? Like it's that kind of
Exactly.
that's amazing to give 6 animals that
Hmm.
wouldn't have a home an
Hmm.
awesome place to live. That's great that you can do that. I love
Yeah, they're crazy.
it. I was hoping you'd say sing so we could put you on the spot, but
Oh, that's hilarious.
what's like maybe your biggest influence in life or a mentor or somebody you've really looked up to or learned from along the way?
Yeah, I have to tell you, I actually have had I've been really lucky when it comes to my managers at work. There's 3 in particular that I'm still really good friends with today, and all 3 of them in some way have actually given me like a foundation to really propel like um, personally and financially. So yeah, and the most recent one is probably had the biggest impact. I'm still like best friends with her. But I mean, just kind of understanding their risk tolerance for certain things and like understanding how she invests her money. Um, it's been really good. So again, it comes back to mentors. None of these guys were like formal mentors or anything. They're all informal, they're friends, but again, like I'm absorbing as much as I can from them because I know that they've had a lot of success.
That's a really powerful takeaway. Even, and I love that the managers are pouring in and sharing that
Mhm.
with you and things like that. But I think if you're curious and you ask questions and you're kind to people, most people want to help you. You know, that's the thing, especially if they're at a spot in life where you would admire and want to get to. That's awesome. I love that answer. That's cool. What's the favorite part of your day each day, Cori?
Every morning. So I get up at 5. I don't really log into work until like maybe after 8-ish. So I basically have 3 hours to my day, to myself every day. Which is great. That's my favorite.
Win the morning, win the day. I'm telling you that
Exactly.
anybody out there, I used to wake up by snoozing 6 times, then reading all the
Mhm.
news of the day, and then I'd always wonder why I'm stressed, and it's like,
Right,
dude,
exactly.
I love that you get up, take intentional time for
Mhm.
yourself. Do you do a lot of writing in the morning too?
I do. I do a lot of thread like writing in the morning, some reading, the meditation. Yeah, I have a whole little
I
list.
love that. That's awesome. I love that. That's cool. Well, what are some future plans? Maybe some goals for 2023? Anything I can plug that you're doing? I'll put all your links below too.
Yeah, so in 23, I've actually just redesigned my blog, so I'm really excited about it. I'm hoping to share that with more people. It's winwithyourmoney.com. Redesigned it. I hope it's a little more user friendly and like clear to people. There's a lot of helpful like tidbits. A lot of what we talked about today, actually, the 5 stages of money, and then different ways to incorporate those into your life. So I'm hoping to share that with more people, and then I started the YouTube channel, which I know you have an awesome YouTube channel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll link your YouTube
So
below for sure too. I look forward to seeing more videos of yours there. I can't wait to be a subscriber. That's awesome.
yeah, so working on that. So yeah, I realize not everyone likes to read, some people just like to watch videos, so that's perfect. So those are the probably 2 main pushes for 23.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, we'll link Cori's YouTube below. I've actually checked out her blog, winwithyourmoney.com too. We'll link that below. It's filled with great stuff. This is where I got a lot of the stuff to even ask, and it's just filled with a lot of wisdom. And I so appreciate you coming on and sharing. I know you're busy, but it's awesome that you took some time out to educate some people. Maybe give the people a last word out there. What do you want to say to the people?
Just remember that your current circumstances are never permanent. No matter where you are today, you have the power to change where you go in the future. So never forget that.
Amen.
Because I could, like, so many of us could have been stuck at a certain point in our lives and we decided to change. So you definitely have that power.
Always one committed decision away, people. I love that. It gets me fired up. I have a lot of coffee in me right now, too, if you can't tell, but that gets me fired up. Well, thank you so much, Cori, for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys have found this helpful on Money, Finance, and Freedom Week. If you guys have any questions or comments, man, give Cori a follow on Twitter, on YouTube. Check out her blog. She's responsive, even with hundreds of thousands of people. If you comment and you ask her questions, she gets back to you, which is amazing. So guys, check her out, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. This is Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. Appreciate you guys. Go be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and let's change the world, baby. Have the best day.